It was a cold, moonless night in October when I first heard about Blackwood Asylum. I was at a bar in a small town called Ravenshade, just a few miles from the abandoned hospital. The locals whispered about it in hushed tones, as if saying its name too loudly might summon something unspeakable. I was a freelance journalist, always on the hunt for a good story, and this one seemed too intriguing to pass up. Little did I know it would be the last story I'd ever chase. Blackwood Asylum was built in the late 1800s, a sprawling, Gothic structure nestled deep in the woods. It was originally intended to be a sanctuary for the mentally ill, but over the years it gained a reputation for something far darker. Rumors of unethical experiments, patient abuse, and unexplained deaths swirled around the place like a thick fog. The asylum was shut down in 1972 after a series of mysterious incidents, and it had been left to rot ever since. The locals warned me not to go. "That place is cursed," one old man said, his voice trembling. "People who go in don't come out the same, if they come out at all." But I didn't believe in curses or ghosts. I believed in facts, and I was determined to uncover the truth about Blackwood. I arrived at the asylum just as the sun was setting. The building loomed before me like a monstrous shadow, its broken windows staring out like hollow eyes. The air was thick with the scent of decay, and the only sound was the rustling of leaves in the wind. I grabbed my flashlight, camera, and notebook and stepped inside. The interior was even more unsettling than the exterior. The walls were covered in peeling paint, and the floor was littered with debris. The air was cold and damp, and every step I took echoed through the empty halls. I could feel the weight of the building pressing down on me, as if it were alive and watching. I started exploring the first floor, taking notes and snapping photos. The rooms were small and cramped, with rusted bed frames and broken furniture. In one room, I found a stack of old patient records. The names and diagnoses were barely legible, but one name stood out: Elias Blackwood. He was the founder of the asylum, and according to the records, he had been a patient there himself in his final years. The notes described him as delusional and dangerous, but there was no explanation of what had driven him to madness. As I moved deeper into the asylum, I began to notice strange things. The temperature would drop suddenly, and I could hear faint whispers echoing through the halls. At one point, I thought I saw a shadow move out of the corner of my eye, but when I turned, there was nothing there. I tried to shake off the feeling of unease, telling myself it was just my imagination. Then I found the staircase to the basement. The door was heavy and rusted, but it creaked open with a loud groan. The stairs were steep and narrow, leading down into complete darkness. I hesitated for a moment, but my curiosity got the better of me. I descended slowly, my flashlight casting eerie shadows on the walls. The basement was a maze of corridors and rooms, each one more unsettling than the last. The air was thick with the smell of mildew and something else I couldn't quite place. I found a room filled with old medical equipment, rusted scalpels, syringes, and restraints. In the corner, there was a large metal chair with straps hanging from the arms and legs. My stomach turned as I realized what it was: an electroshock therapy table. I was about to leave when I heard it, a low, guttural growl coming from the shadows. My heart raced as I swung my flashlight around, but there was nothing there. Then I heard it again, closer this time. I backed away, my breath coming in short, panicked gasps. The growl turned into a whisper, a voice that seemed to come from all around me. I bolted for the stairs, my flashlight bouncing wildly as I ran. The whispers followed me, growing louder and more frantic. I could feel something chasing me, something I couldn't see. I reached the top of the stairs and slammed the door shut, leaning against it as I tried to catch my breath. I thought about leaving then and there, but something kept me there. Maybe it was pride, or maybe it was the journalist in me, but I couldn't leave without finishing what I started. I decided to explore the upper floors, hoping to find something that would explain the horrors I had just witnessed. The second floor was even worse than the first. The walls were covered in strange symbols and graffiti, and the air was thick with the stench of rot. I found a room with a large rusted mirror hanging on the wall. As I approached it, I noticed something strange. My reflection didn't move when I did. I froze, staring at the mirror in horror. My reflection smiled at me, a twisted, malevolent grin that sent chills down my spine. I backed away, but the reflection didn't. It stepped out of the mirror, its form shifting and distorting until it was no longer me. It was a tall, gaunt figure with hollow eyes and a mouthful of jagged teeth. It lunged at me and I screamed, dropping my flashlight as I ran. I didn't stop running until I reached the third floor. The door to the final room was slightly ajar, and I could see a faint light coming from inside. I pushed the door open and stepped inside, my heart pounding in my chest. The room was small and sparsely furnished, with a single bed and a desk. On the desk was an old journal, its pages yellowed with age. I opened it and began to read. The entries were written by Elias Blackwood himself, and they detailed his descent into madness. He spoke of experiments he had conducted on the patients, trying to purify their minds. But as the experiments grew more extreme, he began to hear voices, whispers that told him to do unspeakable things. The final entry was dated the day the asylum was shut down. It read, "They are here. They have always been here, waiting in the shadows. I tried to control them, but they have taken control of me. They will take control of anyone who enters this place. There is no escape." As I read those words, I felt a cold hand grip my shoulder. I turned around, but there was nothing there. The whispers returned, louder and more insistent than before. I could feel them crawling inside my mind, twisting my thoughts and filling me with a sense of dread. I ran out of the room and down the stairs, the whispers following me every step of the way. I didn't stop until I was outside, gasping for air as I collapsed on the ground. I looked back at the asylum, and for a moment I thought I saw a figure standing in one of the windows, watching me. I never went back to Blackwood Asylum. I tried to write about my experience, but every time I sat down to type, the whispers would return, filling my mind with fear and confusion. I eventually gave up, but the memories of that night still haunt me. Sometimes late at night, I hear the whispers again. They tell me to go back, to finish what I started. And as much as I try to resist, I know that one day I will. Because the truth is, Blackwood Asylum never lets go of those who enter its doors. It's still out there, waiting in the shadows, ready to claim its next victim.